guys, and welcome back to the VERKERK VOLVO build part 5. Now it's been a bit dead for the last couple of weeks because it's been school holidays, so I become dad then, and everything else tends to get put away while the house becomes a zoo. The kids running about everywhere and it's a madhouse. It just ain't worth the risk losing anything, especially tiny parts and stuff like that, so it's just best if we put it away and play it safe. So when we left off, we'd got this far, got pretty much the front axle constructed and stuff, and we was at the airbags 5A. Now I've spent most of the morning playing about with 5A because it's now part of the correction part, if you remember from the last one. So 5A, I'm building it like this and how it says, and it's not working out. When in fact 5A is actually 12A and 12A is actually 5A. So when you come to this and you almost have broken windows in your house as well and crap everywhere because you've lost your shit, then that's why. It's the back to front, it's no big deal. I've sorted it. There's now been like glued together yet, luckily, and stuff like that. And because we're going off this revised update here, there now is no springs within the airbags, which now means that when we construct these airbags, they aren't going to be as effective as they would be with the springs inside, because they do have a bit of squish, but once the springs in it, that would have give a bit of flex and stuff within like the airbag. So now it's like being glued together with these new parts and stuff. Your airbag is now solid, or will be solid once it's constructed. Now when you come to 5B, i.e. lining up the airbags to sit in the chassis, you have to glue them on here now, actually onto the axle. And because we're on the revised bit, you also have to glue all this together now, whereas it were constructed with little nuts and bolts and screws and stuff like that, which then would have enabled you to adjust this like chassis mount on top of the airbag. So if I just find one there, for example, this is all glued in place now, so it's fixed, so you would have to get that absolutely correct. Now I ain't gonna glue these on yet until it's ready for going to the chassis, and then I can line it up correctly and glue it in position then. The only reason being is, as I said, had it had been constructed the older way, you would have had room to adjust these, maybe undo a nut and adjust it accordingly. So when you're building up this airbags bellows part of the VERKERK truck, just take extra caution and just try and make a note of that. So yeah, just take extra care in that. So now the construction itself is pretty simple. You would have received these, and they are the AS4 AS5 parts, as you can see there. But as I said, I'm not going to be gluing it onto the axle just yet, so I'm just going to be constructing the bellows airbags, have them sat in place where I need to be, and I also ain't going to be gluing the top in yet until it needs to be actually fitted to the chassis. So we'll go ahead, get these airbags done, and then we can move on to the next step, which is the rear axles. So now the little one's at school, let's get this thing built. So I've already got my parts out, which I will be needing. And there are all these parts here except for the screws and the nuts, which I won't be using, and I will not be using SUF5 and SUF3. They've been replaced with the AS4, AS5. So, airbags. Bear in mind, these airbags, they come in two different sizes, by the way. You've got your tall one, which is the rear, and your short stubby ones, which we'll be using up here on the front. It shows the shorter ones in the manual, but if you're just going off 5A for 5A, it shows the taller ones. However, that is the rear axle, guys, so please make note of that. So first things first, there's the parts I've already got out. There's one, so we're going to be using this, and as you can see here, there's two holes in the bottom and the little grooves which have kind of been cut out, and that's where that'll sit, on these two pips there, and then just the grooves just to sit it comfortably over the nuts. So that would then be glued onto there. Like I said, I'm not going to be gluing that just now. So, on airbag, so we need this, which is, oops, AS5, and I think my AS4 is already in here, because I've already tried building them a few times. Like I say, stuff started going everywhere yesterday. We're getting a bit hectic, so I've pre-built these, then I 100% know exactly what I'm doing and what I'm showing you guys. Like I say, it gets confusing. So yeah, which one have we got there? AS5, which did I say which? So let's just use this as the guide. AS5, AS4. So we need AS5 now, which we're going to flip that upside down onto there. However, that needs to be glued onto there. So I've got various glues which I'm going to be using for this build, and this is just a brush on liquid poly by Ribble. Paint that edge so it can all. So I'm going to give that a few minutes just to set, and then I'll come back and continue, because that then needs to go into there and things, and then the top part's glued. Like I said, there's a lot of gluing in this build, so I'm going to go and have a sandwich, just let that dry for a few minutes before we think about moving it, and also we'll clamp it. There we go. I'll be back in a few, guys. Right, so now this is set. Just take that out of the clamp. I'm going to take your stumpy airbag, not the long one, the shorter one, and you have a small hole at the top and a wider hole at the bottom, and all you're going to do then is literally push the airbag onto there until you get a nice like flushed finish, if you will. Just push that side in it. little smidge. There we go. Then you want your little AS4, which is gonna go into the top of there, like with inside there. Oh, I'm just gonna show you. So that one's now in there, AS4. Then you need this SUF2, which also glues onto here, and that'll be followed by the mounting bracket to the chassis. Now earlier I was explaining about not gluing this for this reason is if it was on its screw you'd have room to adjust it. You see I can rotate that. Now if I glue that into place, then I don't know how much play I'm going to have to rotate that. So I'm just going to leave that for the time being unglued, which I'll make a note of it to come back and glue it. Which will then enable me to put it into position and glue it where it needs to be. I just don't want to break the glue by trying to keep moving it, if you get what I mean. So that's one airbag anyway, and then it's just a case of repeat the step again. So you're going to want your AS5, and remember that SU4 with the grooves to sit on the axle. So I've just quickly filed that up, got it all neater on the edge. Again, just going to put a smidge of glue around. And just going to fit that into there. Pop that in the clamp again to set. And while that's just drying, I will just glue this up and we'll see. And if it does break apart when trying to adjust it all, then I'll just have to glue it back there and then. But we may as well have a see. So to just run the glue inside there. I've got a little bit on there, but we can wipe that off. And this is the part that's going to be glued to, so if we just put a little bit more on there and pop that in there like so. It's a little bit fiddly. That's a little bit of glue on there. I'll pop that one into there. So I'll just hold that and let that set a moment while the other's setting. Here's start for the second airbag again. So that's all dried and set into place. So then you want to take a little stubby airbag, pop that onto there, and again using the AS4, let's give this a trim and a neat. So that's trimmed. Just gonna pop that into the top of the airbag. This is a little bit fiddly. There we go. Again, just going to run some glue around the inside. And then you want the other SUF too. And a little bit more glue. Clamp that for a few. A little bit of glue on there onto the chassis mount. And if we just pop that one back inside. There we go. So there's one airbag and two airbag. Now this one should have set, so let's just see if once it's in position, yeah. Okay, so at the beginning of the video I said I wasn't going to glue this for the reason of being able to adjust it with it being glued in place. However, you can still adjust that, so ignore what I said at the beginning. And if you wish to go ahead and glue it, then go ahead and glue it straight away. It does move, and there is play there, and the glue's set alright. I'm just more worried about the glue breaking off and then just having to glue it all again. It just seemed like it may have been a bit easier just to do it all in one go, but hey, oh, we're safe, we're safe. So, that means then we can now proceed to step 5B. And we can now glue the airbags onto the chassis. Woohoo! And then that's the angles in which it's supposed to be at, but we can always twizzle that about and adjust that when it's being fitted to the actual chassis itself. So happy days. They aren't quite as effective as what they would have been with a spring inside from the original design. However, time just didn't allow him to complete that design. So they still look good. So now all we're going to do is take the glue again and these pips on here, and I'm just going to brush a line of it down there and a little across, or maybe even the whole thing. At least I know it's secure then. I mean, you guys pop on as much glue as you wish to use. And I'll just repeat that for this side. And same again on the bottom. Now with this being glued also and not screwed, is if the glue were to come loose, the whole thing's going to come away from your chassis. So just be cautious when putting these together. As I said, it is glued together. But no, that's that, guys. That's step 5A, 5B. So that is now the front axle complete and the airbags. There's some lovely scale features on this with the torsion bars and everything else, the airbags. So there we have it, the front axle complete. So next, the rear axle, which will be the next video. And yeah, this might have been a bit confusing as we ended up sorting it in the end, but that's the joys of the hobby. So enjoy your builds, and whether you're building or just running trucks or everything else, just have fun with it all, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. So ciao for now, guys, and don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe, because your support goes a long way. And yeah, just appreciate you guys being there to watch the videos. So thanks again, and ciao for now.